I want you to picture this scene for just a few moments. We are out in the African bush, miles and miles and many hours from the nearest town. There's an Irish missionary Salesian priest, after arriving at this shed, I guess for want of a better word, where the Eucharist is going to be celebrated for the local people. And when I say local, these are people who are travelling on foot for an hours at a time just to experience the Eucharist. Mass is beginning, and shortly after the priest begins, the back door opens. A young girl of about 9 years of age stands there with a very young baby strapped around her body using a kind of a cloth-like material. On one hand, she's got a very young child, and on the other hand, she has another very young child. They make their way barefooted to the very top of the chapel. And as Mass proceeds, there is something mesmerizing about this girl's face. She is transfixed on the priest, on his words, but in particularly when it comes to the consecration and the elevating of the host into the air. It's as if there was an earthquake at that moment and everything fell down around them. Nothing could distract this girl. The Eucharist that the priest was holding up was more than just a symbol or a ritual. It was a person. Whoever he was holding up, she had this deep, intimate experience and relationship with. And for anyone who was watching closely, it touched the heart to the core. This event actually occurred in the summer of 2006. I was on a summer break from university, and I decided to do something good for this particular year. The previous years I had been on the J1 student visa to the United States and had summers of partying and everything that goes with that. But at the end I was so empty, and it was a time of my life when I was very much searching. And so, to cut a long story short, I ended up in Africa, and particularly in the country of Swaziland, a small little country landlocked by South Africa. And I was living out there for a couple of months with Irish missionary priests. And there was one particular priest from Donegal, Father Peter Doherty. And my role on a Sunday, we'd hop into a pickup truck and we'd leave before the community rose, and we'd drive out into the African bush for a couple of hours. We'd come to maybe what was like a shed, and he'd celebrate Mass. And when he was finished, we'd get back in, drive another hour or two, celebrate again, and we'd do this throughout the day. And then we'd come back after dark. The local bishop had asked him to do this. On this particular Sunday, I experienced with my own eyes this event with the young girl. After Mass, Father Peter went up talking to the girl in her local language, in her native language, and he told me afterwards that the girl was 9 years of age. Because that particular area of Africa was known for having a very high death rate due to the AIDS virus, that girl's parents had recently died, both of them. And this 9-year-old innocent girl, who should be in the prime of her childhood, was now a mother, a sister, a carer, a provider for those children, because they had no one else and nothing else. They didn't even have shoes, and they walked for an hour and a half, 2 hours each time Father Peter came, just to experience Jesus in the Eucharist. As I said, this was a time when I was very much searching, and I didn't even realize it that day, but that was a turning point for me. Because seeing this young, uneducated, poor girl and possessing something that I was looking for, I was searching for, even though I didn't particularly know it, Maybe I did subconsciously, but it wasn't clear in my mind at that time. And despite the sufferings and trials and persecutions she had in her own life, there was a peace and a joy and a strength that came with her. And that memory very much struck me today on this feast of Corpus Christi. I went to Mass this morning with my wife and our 5 children, as we do every Sunday. And it was beautiful. We get to experience the Eucharist as always. But afterwards, once Mass is finished, we're rushing to get out the door, get the kids into the car, and everybody else is pouring out and that. And as I drove out, I was just wondering how many people are actually back in that church praying and giving thanks for the Eucharist. I should have been there, but I wasn't. And it made me think in the car on the way home about the Pew study done in the United States in 2019, where it was said that of practicing Catholics, 69% do not believe in the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. They believe it's more of a ritual or a symbol, and it's only 31% of practicing Catholics who believe of the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist, present body, soul, blood and divinity. And if that's the case in the United States, it's probably something similar here in Ireland. And so as I was pondering this going out the road, again that memory of that poor African girl, the girl who possessed nothing materially, but possessed everything spiritually. You know, sometimes we can spend so much time and money and resources searching for happiness, and yet it's here. The answer is here. It's free. It's up the road from each one of us. He's sitting in the tabernacle, waiting for us, yearning for us to come and visit him, to speak to him. And I think that's the challenge of today. As today progresses, if we don't get an opportunity to take part in a Corpus Christi procession or visit our local church and sit with Jesus in the real presence in the Eucharist, even if it's just at home tonight, sit with Jesus in his word and ponder on today's gospel, and let it challenge you like it's challenging me, and make me wonder, when I receive Jesus this morning in the Eucharist, how is this going to affect my life? Is this going to filter into every area of my life, into my vocation as a husband, my vocation as a father, into my family life, into my work, into everything I do and everything I say throughout my life and every part of my life in this coming week? Do I have an intimate relationship with Jesus in the Eucharist? Or am I just going through the motions to participate in Mass and to get out the door and not think about it again until the following Sunday? That was the challenge for me today, and I think that should be the challenge for all of us. To grow deeper in our intimacy, our love, and our relationship with Jesus in the Eucharist, in the Blessed Sacrament. Think about it. God bless.